The rust-covered military drone was supposed to be nothing more than scrap metal headed for recycling, but one faded name burned into its damaged frame stopped a single father in his tracks and shattered the carefully built life he had spent 12 years trying to protect. In that single heartbeat, the past he thought had been buried forever came rushing back, carrying memories of sacrifice, loss, and a promise that had never truly been fulfilled. Before we begin this unforgettable story, if you believe that kindness deserves a second chance and that ordinary people can change lives through compassion, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to Dad Talks and Stories so you never miss another heart-touching journey. Every Saturday morning, the old industrial auction yard came alive with buyers searching for hidden treasures among forgotten machines. Most people came looking for profit. Others came searching for spare parts. Adrian Mercer, a successful technology CEO whose company specialized in renewable energy systems, came simply because he enjoyed restoring forgotten pieces of history. Despite leading a billion-dollar company, Adrian found peace in giving abandoned machines another purpose. He believed broken things deserved another chance, perhaps because he secretly believed broken people did too. That particular morning, the auction featured retired military equipment. Rusted engines, damaged transport vehicles, communication towers, and piles of discarded electronics lined the dusty yard under the bright sunshine. Near the very end sat a badly damaged reconnaissance drone. Its wings were bent beyond repair, its electronics had been stripped away, and most bidders ignored it completely. Adrian noticed something beautiful beneath the damage. He saw engineering, craftsmanship, and history waiting to be preserved. Without much competition, he purchased the drone for little more than the price of scrap metal. A few days later, the drone arrived at the warehouse attached to Adrian's headquarters. Employees gathered with curiosity while he carefully cleaned years of dirt, soot, and faded camouflage paint from its aluminum frame. Hidden beneath layers of corrosion, tiny engraved letters slowly appeared along an internal support beam that had survived the crash. The engraving simply read, "For Captain Rowan Hale." Across the warehouse, a maintenance contractor named Elias Carter accidentally glanced toward the drone while carrying a toolbox. The moment he saw those words, every color drained from his face. His hands trembled so violently that his wrench slipped onto the concrete floor with a sharp metallic crash. Nobody understood why the quiet single father suddenly looked as though he had seen a ghost. Elias had spent the past decade raising his young daughter Nora alone after losing his wife to illness. Every dollar he earned repairing machinery went toward school supplies, rent, and making sure Nora never felt the weight of the hardships he quietly carried. Few people knew that before becoming a maintenance worker, Elias had served as a military engineer assigned to experimental reconnaissance systems during an overseas conflict. Captain Rowan Hale had been more than his commanding officer. Rowan had become his closest friend, mentor, and the man who once saved his life during an ambush that changed everything. The drone sitting inside Adrian's warehouse had been Rowan's final mission. Official reports claimed the drone malfunctioned before crashing behind enemy lines. The investigation ended quickly, and Rowan was declared lost in action. Elias never believed the explanation. Too many details never made sense. Too many questions remained unanswered. Most painful of all, Rowan had left behind a wife who was expecting their first child. Elias carried the guilt of surviving while Rowan never returned. Adrian noticed Elias staring silently at the engraving long after everyone else had returned to work. Instead of asking uncomfortable questions in front of others, he invited Elias into his office later that afternoon. What began as a simple conversation slowly unfolded into an emotional confession that neither man expected. Elias explained the significance of the engraved name and the memories attached to the damaged aircraft. He admitted that for 12 years he had wondered whether there was something inside the drone that could finally explain what really happened. Adrian listened carefully. Success had taught him how to negotiate billion-dollar contracts, but life had taught him that sometimes the most valuable investment was simply listening to another person's pain. Rather than dismissing Elias's story as ancient history, Adrian offered something unexpected. He told Elias they would carefully restore the drone together before sending it to a museum. More importantly, they would examine every surviving component in hopes that one forgotten detail might finally bring peace. Evenings became something special inside the quiet warehouse. After regular employees went home, Adrian and Elias carefully removed damaged panels, cleaned burned wiring, and cataloged every surviving piece. Nora often visited after school, sitting nearby while finishing homework and watching the two men slowly breathe life back into forgotten history. For the first time in years, Elias smiled without forcing it. The restoration became more than mechanical work. It became healing. Several weeks later, hidden beneath a damaged navigation housing, they discovered a sealed titanium compartment that had escaped previous inspections. Inside rested a partially destroyed memory module that military investigators had somehow overlooked. Adrian immediately contacted digital recovery specialists within his own technology company. Days later, against every expectation, fragments of encrypted data began appearing on computer screens. The recovered files did not reveal military secrets. Instead, they contained Rowan Hale's final personal recordings. Knowing his mission had become hopeless, Rowan had used the drone's internal storage to leave messages for those he loved. There were recordings thanking his fellow engineers, expressing gratitude for their courage, and finally one deeply emotional message intended for the child he would never meet. Rowan spoke about hope, integrity, and growing into someone who would always choose compassion over anger. His final words were filled not with fear, but with love and unwavering faith that kindness could outlive even the darkest moments. Silence filled the warehouse as the recording ended. Tears rolled freely down Elias's face while Nora quietly wrapped her arms around her father. Adrian stood motionless, realizing that the greatest discovery hidden inside the drone had never been military intelligence. It was humanity itself. Determined to honor Rowan's legacy properly, Adrian used his resources to locate Rowan's surviving family. After years of searching, they found Rowan's now-adult son, who had grown up knowing almost nothing about the father he never met. The reunion was emotional beyond words. For the first time, the son heard his father's voice directly, not through official reports or faded photographs, but through a message recorded with unconditional love. News of the remarkable discovery spread throughout the community. Local veterans organized a ceremony celebrating not only Captain Rowan Hale's service but also the unlikely friendship between a wealthy CEO and a hard-working single father whose lives had crossed because of one forgotten piece of scrap metal. Adrian quietly funded scholarships for children of fallen service members in Rowan's honor, while Elias volunteered his weekends mentoring young mechanics, teaching them that every machine carries a story and every person deserves respect regardless of their title or income. As months passed, Nora often visited the museum where the restored drone eventually found its permanent home. Visitors admired the engineering, but those who paused to read its story left understanding something far greater. They learned that history is not preserved by machines alone. It survives because ordinary people choose compassion over convenience and remembrance over silence. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs a reminder that hope can be found in the most unexpected places, leave a heartfelt comment below, and subscribe to Dad Talks and Stories so we can continue bringing you stories that celebrate courage, kindness, and second chances. Special request, comment, kindness never rusts, if you believe even the smallest act of compassion can change someone's life forever. The damaged drone that everyone else saw as worthless scrap became something priceless because one man looked beyond the rust, and another never forgot the name burned into its frame. Together they proved that while metal may corrode, love does not fade, sacrifice is never truly forgotten, and the greatest restorations are not made with tools or technology but with empathy, gratitude, and hearts willing to remember. Sometimes the most extraordinary miracles begin exactly where everyone else stops looking, reminding us that every forgotten object may still carry a story powerful enough to heal generations.